Hello, my brothers and sisters in Christ, kings and queens. This is Pastor C.O. Kizer Smith coming to you from the Carnival Cruise Line. I am on my way currently to Nassau in the Grand Bahamas. This is a trip that my children gave me for my birthday, and we are making it come to pass. I do give honor, praise, and glory to the Most High God who has brought me this far. He promised me that my latter days would be my greater days, and he certainly is not slack concerning his promises. I say to each of you who might be going through situations or you came through 2023, you came through many trials, tribulations, and you had many storms that occurred in your life. Nevertheless, as the songwriter says, millions didn't make it, but you and I are one of the ones who did. We give God praise, honor, and glory for that because he didn't have to do it, but he did. Many years ago, God gave me the ministry, Broken Pieces Being Made Whole. Broken Pieces Being Made Whole. Taken from the 27th chapter of the book of Acts. I am one of those pieces that was broken. I was extremely depressed being in an abusive relationship, an abusive marriage for well over 11 years. When I tell you I was shot up, beat up, cut up, pistol whipped, thrown out of a car, or I was made to jump out of a car on I-95 when the speed limit was 75 when they first built it. I had a gun in my side. Had a gun placed in my side, and he continued to tell me that he was going to kill me. Nevertheless, I jumped out of the car. He'd already come on the job, and he pistol whipped me. I ended up with 16 sutures in my skull. So I come to tell you that yes, I have been broken. Many of us have gone through trials, tribulations, and many storms, but we made it. I'm not one of these people to tell you that I came through unscathed. I suffered many years of very low self-esteem. He told me that I was too black. I was too ugly. Nothing that I put on suited me. It would always look better on someone else. I could do absolutely nothing right. And I've known since I was about 12 years old when I used to volunteer, actually 10, Carolyn Tanksley and I volunteered to work at the Ann Stork Center. At that time, it was located on the corner of Ninth Avenue and Sunrise Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, and we lived directly across the street. Those children who were told, we were told that some of them would never walk or talk. By the time Kellen and I finished with them, some of them were walking and some were even swimming. So I know that God can do anything but fail if we only believe. And I trusted him even as a child. I knew I wanted to become a nurse. When I wanted to go to nursing school, every time I mentioned school, I don't know if any of you saw the picture, the motion picture, The Burning Bed. Well, that was pretty much my story, except it did not end the same. I was one of these people that had to study beneath a comforter with a flashlight in the middle of the floor, hopefully while he was asleep. But I still managed to graduate in the top 10% of my class. God has always shown me favor. And during the time when he beat me so that I ended up in the hospital, I'd missed so many days that I was told I would have to start over. And I went to my nursing director and I explained to her my plight. I said to her that if I have to start over, the man that I'm married to will never allow it. In his head, for some reason, he assumed that because I was going to nursing school, rather than see it as benefiting the entire family, he said to me that I was going to think that I was better. So that became a problem. Every time I wanted to go, he just would not allow it. On New Year's, the night before New Year's, I'd already signed up. I'd gone down, I'd gone to administration, I'd taken the entrance exams, and I didn't say anything to him because at this particular time, he was going to have to kill me because I was set on going to nursing school. The door opened and I walked through it. Where there is a will, there's a way, and whatever destiny God has predestined for you, if you do your part, he will do the rest. Many nights he would toss my books aside and call me names and tell me I was never going to amount to anything, without realizing that the increase in pay would have benefited both of us and the entire family. He was a hustler. He knew how to make money, and we both together, we'd accumulated a home, nice home, nicely furnished. We had a duplex that we rented out. And between the two of us, we had 5 vehicles, including my motorcycle that I dearly love. 5 vehicles, 2 people, and my motorcycle, a nice home, and we also had a duplex. Had money in the bank, except for the abusive part and the part where he loved the streets and he loved his women. He loved to drink, and he was a very abusive, mean drunk. And if any of you are experiencing that from the time you start the relationship, believe me, when you marry, they just become a married mean drunk, a married whoremonger, whatever the situation is. The beatings became so severe that by the time I'd had just had enough. Every time I'd leave, he'd hunt me down as if he were hunting a wild animal. So I became too afraid to leave and too afraid to stay, if that makes any sense to any of you. This man would actually follow me to my job, beat me up, take my money, and give it to some of his women. The last time was New Year's Eve. He'd been gone for approximately 3 days. Didn't know where he was. I've always worked the what you call the graveyard shift. Love working nights. Uh, Gone, getting ready for work when he came in, just getting out of the tub, and he decided that this particular night he was going to kill me. These guns have been coming out more often than I care to remember. The beatings had gotten more and more severe, and they gotten a lot more frequent. I knew that eventually he was going to force me to hurt him and end up in prison, or he was going to kill me. But something had to give. Every time I'd leave, he'd hunt me down. Knowing I had to work, he'd come on my job, and he would begin disturbances so that I would get fearful and go back home. But this time I'd had enough. He caused me to wreck one of my vehicles on my way to work because he was chasing me with a gun. And when the police got there, I ran into 2 cars about 3 houses down the street from me, trying to escape him. When the police got there, he said to them that he'd been out and that I was taking my anger out behind the wheel of the car. So he made me become the person, the victim. Now I become the violator. And the craziest thing is, they bought it. They believed him. Uh, People talk about narcissistic behavior and they think that it's just a word that you spear off. But a narcissist can tell anyone, they can sell you anything. They can make you think that you're not standing in the place you're standing in your shoes. They will actually have you looking at your feet to see if you're really in your shoes. And coming from a small country town in Tennessee, I was brought up to believe that the men were important. The men came first. My grandmother, my mother, they said in those terms, well, the men folk have to eat first. The women got up at 5 o'clock and they made these elaborate breakfasts. And when the men came in for lunch, the dinner was ready, including the biscuits, the whole 9 yards. The dinner was on the table and they ate before the children, the wife, or anyone else. So I actually believe that. And I grew up thinking that you did all you could do once you married to stay in the marriage. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not true. That goes for men too. Working with women in distress, I've seen men that have been abused as well. If a person does not value you, your humanity, and treat you as an individual person with feelings and emotions, please, it's time to disengage and disconnect. I don't care what anyone says. Even when this man found out where I was, I'd taken my children to live with my mother for a while. He actually set the house ablaze. He started a fire in the kitchen in hopes that my mother would tell him where I was because I'd left my 3 children with her. It did not work. She was already clued in to the devices of the enemy, and she was not going to bite this time. However, one of my daughters was having trouble in school, so I picked her up and I explained to Broward County School Board my situation and my plight. They actually had the audacity to tell this man my information, where I was living, and where the child was enrolled in school. Though I had told them I was on the run and that he was going to kill me. I had 5 restraining orders at that time in my possession. It did not do any good. And I don't blame the young lady at the school board. It might have been one of his girlfriends. I don't know. He had many. Uh, but I know that he could finesse you into anything. So he probably sold her goods. And she believed it because he could be so convincing that you would think that he was the nicest man on the face of the earth and that I was a villain. That is the way things came out. That's how he portrayed himself. He was tall, he was good looking, he was soft spoken to them. But underneath all of that lie the instincts of an evil person. I won't call him a devil, but I will say that he was innately evil. He wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it too. I never drank. I've never been the type of person that loved the streets. He would insist that I go out with him. And when we get to these little seedy bars or the Elks Club or wherever he was, he would dance with his girlfriends, do whatever he wanted to do. And in order to prove to them that I was nothing and no one, he would start a fight and embarrass me in front of them. Even his relatives, he took delight. If I was smiling, that was sure to be a situation that would cause him to want to strike out and beat me in front of these people. His main objective was to dominate and control me, which brings me to another point. I'm trying to throw in so much as I'm recanting my life and looking at where God has brought me from. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, control is not love. It is just that control. They want to control you and their life. And it's working for them, so they don't want to change. I didn't see anything wrong with it at the time. I was looking through rose colored glasses, and I felt like I have struck pay dirt, and perhaps it is me. Because he'd always say after these beatings, why did you make me do that? Now, don't get it twisted, because I've always been a fighter, and I've never been one to just lie there and allow someone to beat me. There were a few times that he as well left running. I too had purchased myself a gun, and I was determined that the next time he put a gun to my head, one of us was going to die. But there comes a point in your life when you get sick and tired of fighting. You just have no more fight left. And even though I said many times that he did not abuse the children, when your children are exposed to any type of violence in that home, be it physical, emotional, verbal, whatever, it is all abuse to that particular child, and you never know how they're going to internalize it. At any rate, I discovered later on in life that it is a form of child abuse. So, whatever you do, if you're in a bad relationship, do not stay with a man or a woman for the sake of those children because you're doing them more harm than good. My then 12-year-old daughter would stretch her little hands out and get between he and I and the gun and say, "Well, Dad, if you shoot Mama, you're going to have to shoot me." But there were times when I'd had enough, when he'd been gone for 2 or 3 days, and I knew that when he came in, I knew what was going to transpire. I knew what was going to happen. I'd lie there and pretend I was asleep, and I thought that my name was the B word. That's why I don't allow anyone to call me that to this very day. Didn't call me Hope, didn't call me Kathy, didn't call me Catherine. I was the B. And when he pulled those covers back, I knew that we were going to be in for a tryst that night. There was going to be a fight. So there were times when I would have my gun right underneath the bed. And the last time that I fired on him, God was with me because right next door to me, there was a man that had 8 children. He said that he was lying on the couch and the bullet went through that window. It missed him, but by him having those 8 children, I could have shot in one of those. I could have wounded one or killed one. My husband got in his truck and At the time we lived in Flamingo Village, there were no houses out there, only trees, and they began to put some roads in. So he escaped that night by turning his car lights off, and he was set there, and I could not locate him because I purposed in my mind that I was going to kill him. The problem with that is still to this day, we need to change laws because women get more time for defending themselves than a man who actually kills the woman. Let me repeat that because it's so important that we get these laws reversed. I'm not advocating violence on any level by any means, but I do think that it is fixed against the females, the women. When I worked at the county jail, there were times when we would have to go over, and the judge would want us to give testimony as to the kind of medication that an individual was on. And you would hear these judges say, well, why didn't she just leave? There's several reasons why she didn't leave. Could be financial, but most of the time it's out of fear. We fear going and we fear leaving because they're not going to just leave it at that. Oh no, you've gotten away and you are their puppet. They're the puppet master, the puppeteer. So they're going to hunt you down no matter where you go. You're afraid, you're looking behind you, you go in your job and you got your supervisors on the lookout for them. Everything in your life says, preserve your life, he's gonna kill you. So out of fear, you eventually go back because they show up in all kinds of places. You look in your rearview mirror, they're following you. Wherever you're living, they go there. They create a ruckus, create a scene. You're embarrassed because in your mind, people are looking at you as if there's something wrong with you. And that too happens in a lot of abusive relationships. You begin to feel embarrassed because of something someone else is doing. That too plays in your mind. So by the time this New Year's rolled around, and he'd been gone those 3 days, when he came in, and I was trying to get away, he had this gun, he was going to kill me that night. And that police officer said to me, my name was Burns at the time, Mrs. Burns, if I could, I would dump this entire book of tickets in your lap. Your husband said that he went out, and when he came back, you took your anger out behind the wheel of a car. And no matter what I said, no matter what I tried to explain, he'd already made up his mind that I was the problem. There wasn't a lot of help for women back then, and I get emotional thinking about the things that I endured. Uh, my last daughter, she was born 6'9", turned upside down, came in weighing, I believe she weighed 7 pounds, 11 ounces, but she came in breech. I didn't go to my gynecologist toward the last semester once a month and then every 2 weeks. No. I was in his office every week because this man had beaten me. I was standing outside many times with no clothes on, naked, where he'd torn my clothes off. And when the police would come, they would say, is there anywhere you could go? I was left in a position where I was embarrassed. I didn't want my family to know, didn't want my neighbors to know, but they all knew because they heard this. My coworkers all knew, but in my mind, I was embarrassed because there was something I was doing. That's what he told me. Why do you make me do these things? I said all of that to say this to you. Don't allow anyone to dictate your life. You're the CEO of your own life. And when you relinquish the control of your life and give it to them, they will gladly take it because they get strength from you. I'm not that kind of person anymore. My self-esteem led me to have a nervous breakdown. Suffered very badly from post-traumatic stress syndrome and this feeling of not feeling enough. I want you to know that you are more than enough. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, and God doesn't make any junk. When He makes it, it is already complete. I don't like the terminology, oh, this person completes me. Oh, no, when you were born complete. Let me say that again. You were born complete. You don't need anyone to complete you. The master creator has already taken care of that. Don't allow anyone to pigeonhole you and to tell you what you are and are not. If you don't love yourself enough to say to yourself, I am God's masterpiece and I matter. Self love is very important. And I'm not talking about to the point of vanity. Oh, no. I'm talking about to the fact that you want to preserve your life. I would go to funerals and actually envy the person that was lying in that coffin. Envy them, wanting to be in their place, wanting to die because I felt I had no value. When anyone has you thinking that, they have too much power over you. This last time, I made up my mind that was it. I was gone. I wasn't coming back. I left with the clothes on my back. He could have it all. Don't want anything. I'm done. I am done. Got a place. He found out where we were through the carelessness of an individual who worked for the Broward County School Board. Don't know if it was done on purpose. Could have been one of his women. I don't know. All I know is I got ready to go to work one night, opened my door, and there he stood. I didn't know what to do. I froze. Fear came all over me from my head to my toes. He followed me to work. I went in. I told my supervisor my plight. They rushed me out of the side door in ER. By the time I got back to my home, he was already there. I had to let him in because I knew he was going to come through. If he had to come through the window, kick the door in or whatever. And I could not get to the police department. We didn't have cell phones then. We only had house phones. And if I tried to use it, I knew he was going to kill me. So I had him go through this routine, lifting his pants, lifting the waistband of his trousers, moving his jacket back. I wanted to see if he had a gun. Satisfied that he did not, I let him come in and we had a few words. I was trying to stroke him and pet him to make him think that everything was okay. Fearful for my life. At this point, he said he needed money. Well, I knew better because he always had money. He was a hustler, I told you that. But I was going to do whatever it took to get him out of my place. So I gave him money. That was on a Friday night. By Monday, he called me and he said, I've got the money. I want to give you your money back. I'll bring it to you. I said, no, wherever you are, I'll bring it to you. I didn't want him at my place. And for some reason, I have never left my older daughter alone, never left my children alone. This day, I told her to stay there. I had clothes in the washer, and I wanted her to take it out of the dryer. I was insistent. God knows what he's doing, and he's a God of wisdom. He has more wisdom than we do. To this day, I don't know why I said that, because I never left them alone, especially her there by herself, and I loaded the other two up in my car. When we got to the point of destination, I did not know that he'd already told a close friend that he was going to kill me that day. I had my gun under the seat of my car, but he was so nice. He said, I'm going to go to Turner's Corner. It's now, I believe, Omar's on the 19th Street. I'm going to cash a check and bring you your money. Fine. When he came back, he says, are you coming home? And I said, no. He said to me, you've got your final warning. I said, you got your final answer. Just popped off. The next thing I knew, that gun came back. And when I looked in his eyes, I knew this time he's going to kill me. Did not know that he'd taken two 38s, traded them in, bought a brand new 38 on a box of hollow point bullets. Didn't have a clue. Though he had told the family friend that, the friend says, I thought he was just talking like he always does, rather than warn me to let me know. So I never reached for my gun because I just knew he's going to give me my money. I'm going to go home, lay down, and get ready for work again. Didn't happen. I'd already filed for divorce. Little did I know he was served that Monday. Now we're over in Wednesday when he finally said, come and get the money. He called me that Monday, said he's going to have the money Wednesday, said to meet him at this place. I met him there on a Wednesday. The man opened fire, and he shot me everywhere, but under the bottom of my feet and in my head. And I'm pretty sure that if he could have, or if he wanted to, or if I'd moved or been in the wrong position, he would have shot me in my head. He shot me 4 times in the torso, one that went under my left breast, they call the magic bullet. When I leaned over the steering wheel, he shot me twice in the back. So I ended up with 2 bullets so close to the spine they couldn't even take them out. I don't remember anything except talking to the Most High God. Let me go regress on that. I remember thinking as a nurse, don't panic. If you panic, you're going to cause the blood to rush. You don't want to do that. You want to slow down this blood process. You don't want to bleed out. Just don't panic. I'd already leaned over in my peripheral vision. I told my daughter to go in the house and tell whoever's in there, call 911, your daddy shot me. My last conscious vision was her opening that door, and I did not see her get out. I saw her fall out, and I saw the blood that had accumulated in her chest. So my last conscious moment was, my God, he shot her too. But I'm telling you, I was talking to the Most High God, just like I'm talking to you. God is real. Do not allow the enemy to tell you that it is a myth. I know as an ICU nurse, the doctors say, oh, you got these pheromones and serotonin and all this stuff, these enzymes in your brain that are released, and this is what causes you to have near-death experience. Do not believe that hype. You're going to have a conversation with the Most High God before you take your last Ruha breath on this side. My life began to flash before me as a movie screen. And I knew it could have only been a matter of seconds, but to me, it seemed like hours. We were talking, the good and the bad. And I said, God, if you let me live, I'll sing it from a mountaintop. I'll tell them that you're real. I just want to live long enough to see my children where they could take care of themselves. My mother says, I have no recollection of this. But my mother, my dad, and my other family members said that the ambulance attendants placed me on the gurney, pulled the sheet over my head. They'd done the CPR. They got no response. And because I'd gotten shot under here, they thought that he'd blown my heart out. So they were saying that they were bringing in a DOA. One was on the radio, the other was packing up the equipment when suddenly the sheet began to move. And they said, oh my God, she's breathing. She's breathing. The next conscious memory I have is a police officer, same one, by the way, that told me he was going to dump the book of tickets in my lap. Was on duty that day. Praise be unto God. God will do it. He'll bring it full circle. That plays later on when I tell you what I said when I woke up. I remember they said, who did this, your husband or your boyfriend? I could barely talk. I said, husband. I did not know at the time that the bullet that went through my left side had torn my lungs loose from the diaphragm, so I should not have been able to take a breath. There's no medical reason. I was literally drowning in my own fluids because both lungs were collapsed and blood was throughout the entire cavity. What I do remember is getting to the ER. And I remember I heard them say, oh, my God, it's our Kathy, as I worked in Plantation General for about 3 years. And my supervisor, I'd worked with her. Her name was Kathy as well. I remember I said suddenly, I can't breathe. The fluid now, while I'm in the ER, is circulating and I'm drowning in my fluid. That is a terrible position to be in when you cannot take a breath. Cannot take a breath. They put those chest tubes in, and all I remember was, The next thing I heard in my subconscious was code blue, code blue. And I'm thinking they cannot be talking about me because I'm listening to everything they're saying, which changed my entire perspective on how I handle my patients in ICU. The hearing is the last thing to go. I heard every death sentence that Dr. Gunn pronounced over my body. I'm saying all of this to say to you, do not allow people to dictate who you are and where you are. God doesn't make any junk. You're his product. You're his creation. And all of us are shaped in his image. The potter will put us all back together again. It wasn't easy. I've had more surgeries probably than any. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 50 people. In my abdomen, I ended up with a colostomy. And Every few years, they have to go in and do what they call lysis of adhesions because I'm throwing up all the time. I'm throwing up and I have severe abdominal pains. I want to tell you that being shot, don't let it allow any of these young people to tell you that it doesn't hurt. Uh-uh. It burns. They burn like fire. And not only that, the after effects, you never completely heal. Hear me clearly, from all of that damage that those bullets do, especially hollow points, because when they hit, not only do they shoot you, but these metal fragments are all over my body, all over my body. So now my body is trying to fight off all this foreign matter. But I did not go through the process of healing with all of that trauma. And what happened eventually was I didn't understand psych. I didn't do well when we had to transition through psych. I thought I was crazier than, than my patients. What I did not realize is that the brain is an instrument not to be toyed with. I had concentrated so much on taking care of my children, working double shifts, that I really didn't deal with the fact that I've been abused verbally, physically, any way you name, and that I suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome as well as low self-esteem. Didn't deal with that. As Black people, we don't believe in going to see a shrink. Sometimes you need a pill and a prayer. A pill and a prayer. About 15 years later, the brain says, okay, life has slowed down a tad. It's time to deal with all of that trauma. And it swelled up on the inside of me, in addition to some of the things that I was going through with church people. You know, it's not good to berate people and uh, put people down and to isolate people and to make them feel that they're nothing and nobody. And this happens more often than you think in the church. You don't know what they're already dealing with. So here I am now, suffering from low self-esteem from all of the trauma. And then I'm in the church and I think we're all on the same team. To my heart and amazement, I discovered that we were not. I was made to feel once again that I was nothing and nobody and that I was doing a little too much. Knowing what I know about the Bible now, it doesn't bother me. But back then, I thought there was something wrong with me. What have I done to these people? Did I do something I'm not aware of? I suffered really bad. It caused me to have a breakdown dealing with all of that trauma and church people. I don't pigeonhole people, and I don't put anyone down because I don't know what they've already gone through. And I'm going to have to stand before a just God and give an account for all of my deeds done in this body. So I'm very careful how I handle people. Even now as a pastor and as a marriage counselor, I'm very, very particular about what I say because words have power. Don't let anyone tell you sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That is not true. Sometimes you might get past the lick. You might think about it, but you get past it. Those words resound over and over and over in your mind, and you play them back. The way people treat you, you continue to play that back in your mind. You rehearse it, and they make you feel that there's something wrong with you. Brothers and sisters, kings and queens, there's nothing wrong with you, but there's something wrong with them. Keep that in mind. You're okay. They're the ones that need to go back to Nebo City. God calls you his friend. And when he calls you his friend, it is well done. Well done. That's all that really matters. What you do in this body and what the Most High God has to say about it. I don't care what man says. It's what God says about it that makes the difference. When you came into this world, even if you came in as a twin, triplet, quadruplet, whatever, you came in by yourself. And when you stand before the Most High, you're going to give an account for the deeds done in your body. I can't give an account for what people do, but I can give an account as to how I handled it. So now I just smile because I know that when I lay this body down, When I lay this earthly tabernacle, this vehicle called my physical body, when I lay this down, I'm going to stand before just God. And I don't know about you, but I want to hear him say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Been faithful over a few things. Come on up, and I'm going to make you ruler over many. Don't want to hang my head in shame because of how good he's been to me. So whatever you've gone through in the past, 2023, forgetting those things that are behind you, can't do anything about that. But you press on toward the mark of the high calling, which is in Christ Jesus. I love you with a godly love, and I hope that something that I've said here would inspire you, whatever your dream is, whatever the thing is that you want to do, that you enjoy life more abundantly. The potter wants to put us all back together again. Paul says that none shall be lost if we stay in the ship. Stay in the ship, this old ship of Zion, and everything will be all right. You might have to come in on a board. You might have to come in on a piece of a board. The object is to get in, to make it to glory. God bless you. Happy belated New Year. And may 2024 be a year that overshadows you with the blessings of the Most High God. Amen, amen, and bless you.